Catherine, so this is just the help video on eBay and the tips for setting up an item on there properly to help you sell. So the first thing to do is if you log into your eBay account, you should have a screen that looks something like this. And at the top here, you have sell. So if you click on sell, that will then take you to the next screen here. And it basically, there's some information here about how to get the best from your listings. And so I'm just going to run through that here, and that's pretty much the same advice that I would give. So the first thing is to write a standout title. So something that's not too long, but also it really focuses on things like the size of the item, the color of the item, and obviously what the item is. So for example, if it's a cushion, if it's a branded cushion that people will know the brand name, you definitely include the brand name. You definitely want the size and the color, because if you think about eBay, people will be putting on there, I'm looking for a green cushion, for example. And if they want a brand, they'll even know the brand name of the cushion that they're looking for. So the more specific you can be in the title of your listing, the better. You don't want the title to be massive and have too many words. That doesn't help. But you do want it to be quite clear and as obvious as what you're selling as you possibly can be. So size and color being really important, particularly for things like fabrics. So yeah, that's a good tip for that. Write a standout title, and remember it's the title which was where eBay is going to serve your results. So if you're missing the word green out of your green cushion listing, it's not going to serve you amongst that. It's just going to list you under a cushion without the color being part of that wording. So yeah, basically write a really clear title. The next thing I've talked about you briefly as well is using high quality photos. That doesn't mean you need to get a professional camera or any kind of professional setup. A phone is good enough. The main thing about this is you want multiple angles, and we did discuss that before. So you could put a cushion on something that looks like a white background or quite a plain background, and then actually put the cushion on a chair and take a photo of it like that. And as weird as it is, multiple angles does help. So even if the back is fairly plain on the cushion or looks the same, it's still worth adding that as an alternative. People obviously buy and they want to see what the item looks like. So the more angles and the different sorts of photos you can take, the better. And one thing that's a really good tip on photos is the lighting is really important. Because if you have really dark photos and the colors don't look right and you upload those, obviously that has an influence on whether somebody buys or not. And the other tip for photos is make sure the photos are landscape. They just work much better if they're in landscape size. They just fit people's screen better and they just look neater and nicer. And the other tip is don't crop. So if you take them all landscape and you don't crop them, when you upload them, all the images are then the same size. So yeah, that's good tips for that. Picking a purchase format, it's highly recommended now that you always have a buy it now price. Years ago, everybody used to like the sort of the haggling and the listings and just letting people bid and having a sort of fixed price in mind. So for example, you might put a cushion on there and you won't let it sell for less than £20, but you allow people to bid, and you're hoping that obviously they bid over £20. But actually the modern format with eBay now is most people are in a hurry. They don't want to bid on an auction that ends in 3 days' time or a week's time. They want to go on and they want to buy, and they want to click a buy it now button at a price that they're comfortable with. And that's pretty much how people make a purchase on eBay now. So my recommendation is to have a buy it now button, so they can literally just buy it and don't worry about auction format at all. The right price, that's obvious. If you can see similar brands and you know yours is priced well, that's going to really help you to sell. So that's just a case of just setting the correct price and not overpricing items. Because if people realize they can go in the shop and buy something cheaper in the shop, then they won't buy it on eBay. It's as simple as that. So standing out from the crowd, I really recommend, if you want to sell a lot on eBay and eBay has a huge audience, then you should consider the sponsored placement options. You'll see that option come up in your listing later on, where you pay a bit more and it will basically serve your placement to more people and it will promote it and advertise it in more places. So if part of your strategy for selling online is, I'd like to sell well on eBay, and like I say, eBay has a much bigger audience than things like Etsy or people coming direct to your website. So I would say for most of my clients, eBay is a much better selling platform. They get a lot more from it. There's a lot more people on there to buy from them. So something to consider is you could do it just as a trial on one of your items, do a sponsored placement. I think you'll find it help you to sell quicker. So that's a good tip. And then delivery service. A lot of people overlook this, but if you think of Amazon, people love Amazon because if you want to buy some fabric or a cushion or some curtains, you can go on there now and you can have them delivered tomorrow. So I know that's not always logistically possible for what you're doing and what you're selling, because it means you have to be couriering or going to the post office quickly. But in some cases, people really are influenced by how quickly an item can be delivered. So if you only have one delivery and it's, for example, second class, and you're estimating it will arrive with them in 7 days, it may put some people off. Some people don't mind paying a premium, saying I need that next day delivery, or even you guarantee that it'll be there within 3 days. If you've got that kind of service, it will really help you. Basically, so that people feel like they can get it and they get it quickly. That's the generation we live in now. So consider if you're able to offer a next day delivery or some sort of speedy service, but also give them the option, if they want to save money, they can have a second class delivery for less. That's a good thing to do if you can. So that covers their basic tips. There's other things in here, but I would ignore most of that really. And then basically when you're ready, you list an item. And then this is where it starts to help you. So I'm going to just do a dummy product. Let's just do a green cushion. And then it'll give you a recommendation. So for example, if we decided it was a 45 by 45 green cushion, that's sort of telling you that that's a good listing. If it was a brand name and you knew it was a brand name, if it was something that was particular, let's just say it was from Next. It's a Next green cushion, and they're covers and they're 45 by 45. You can be more specific than that and actually do centimeters and centimeters. So that's quite a good listing. So the brand is Next. They're going to be green cushion covers, or if it's just cushions, you can take the covers out. So the Next green cushions, 45 by 45 centimeters. That's just an example of a decent listing that you can use. So then it'll start thinking, well, there's some related ones here. Look, it's recommending things that are very similar. So it's found some tartan cushions. Again, these people are offering free next day delivery, so that really helps. They're going to obviously sell quite well if people are in a hurry. And again, you can see people are putting them on a background, they're putting them on a chair, and that really helps as well, because obviously you're just showing them in different situations, which influences people's buy. So we'll continue without matching that. You'll then ask the condition of your item. So if it's brand new that you're selling it and it has tags on it, that's always a good thing to show people. People often like to know that they've got the tags, or they're sealed, or they're unopened. And it will then start building up a campaign for you. So it's then got things you can add. So if you've got specific material, that you've got, it's always good to fill all of this in. I realize it can be a little bit time consuming, but it's really helpful to be very specific about what you're offering. So let's say they're cotton. It will start basically filling all of these in. Again, the size, we've listed this dummy one as 45 by 45. So you click the size, and then if there's a theme, if there's no theme, then leave it. If there is a particular theme of them, you can obviously go through and select one if there is. If not, they're just a standard one. You can leave it like that. And then we talked about this, and this is giving you tips here. Look, so they're sort of showing even for shoes, for example, take a photo of the top of the bottom of the shoe as well, and the back and the front and the sides. If there's any sort of marks or defects, you always have to have a photo of those, because obviously if something arrives and it is marked or there is a problem with it, you're just going to get a request for a refund immediately, and it's hassle. So if there isn't a tiny mark or something, upload that as well. But you can see what it's recommending you to do. Take multiple photos from multiple angles. You can have up to 24 photos. I'd say my customers that do really well have got around about 5 or 6 images of every single product that they are selling. So that's a good tip, to try and do that if you can. And this brings you then down to sort of showing the description we've got set. We can then choose our buy it now price. You can obviously change that. So it's giving a recommendation based on the settings I put in of selling it for £20. Obviously you can sell it for whatever it is that you want to. Then it starts talking about the delivery, and we did briefly sort of say if you can do a better, faster delivery, you can then click change in here and start altering what you offer. So you can have a flat rate. You can obviously go to the post office, get it weighed, and they could say, well, next day delivery costs £6. So you could say, well, actually, I'll make a couple of pounds on that then, and I'll charge them £8. And then you can add a second delivery service, which could be second class, for example, 2 or 3 days. What you're doing now is when they buy their item, they can then choose either £8 postage or the second class, and maybe that's £2, the £2 second class. You're just giving them the option then of how they prefer to receive it. And again, you can change the delivery service. If it's next day, you can go in, you could make that £12, have a next day. But what you're doing by setting that up is they've got the option to pay £12 to get it quick, £8 to get it in 2 or 3 days, £2 to go second class. And it's their choice then of how that affects the price. It's a really good idea to do that though, because a lot of people want something quickly, and there'll be another group of people who just want something as cheap as possible. So you're covering all angles if you have that. International delivery, I don't recommend getting involved in that at all. I would stick to UK buyers. And collect in person, again, you can do that if you want to. It can be tricky though, because obviously somebody's going to buy it and then they're going to want to pick it up at certain times. So it's okay if you can offer that. And if not, I would ignore that. Then basically, we won't worry about all of this, but you'd set this up if you're going to collect it. They could collect it. You could say where they're going to collect it from and put your postcode in. So you can then after that you preview what you're doing and save it and list it. So this is showing us now what we've got. So obviously I didn't upload any photos. I didn't change the price. This is our description we've set. These are our postage options. And then again, we've not really put a proper description in here. It's just pulled it out of that. So you'd set a proper description. Your information would appear there. You'd basically get it this so you're really happy with it and you think it looks good. And then you hit list it. So you go back to the previous screen we were on and adapt anything and change anything at this point that you wanted to, like prices or descriptions. Yeah, so it gives you an idea. And there's the payments we talked about. We put in an £8 and a £2, so we're giving them the option of choosing that. Yeah, so really straightforward. Once you've done it once, if you've got this particular cushion, you've got sort of more of them in stock. Obviously, once this one sells, you can come back to this listing and use the same setup, the same thing. So you don't have to go through the whole thing again. You can just go back in and it basically says relist and you relist. Obviously, once you've sold one, if you have another one at home or in stock, you then just relist and it will remember all of the settings from this one before. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. That's the kind of the basics of eBay. I think I said at the start of this video, this is the most the best platform for selling online. You're going to have a much bigger audience here than anywhere else. So it's worth listing things. Another thing to say about eBay is it likes it when you have multiple things listed all the time. So a lot of my customers will always have, say, 10 or 20 products on eBay for sale all of the time. Even if they're not all selling out, they just leave them on there. And eBay quite likes that. If you've got that going on your account, it can see you're an active seller. You're selling a lot. You always have a lot for sale. And the fees of eBay we haven't really covered, but as you list item, the next screen it would start telling you what it would cost, and it would give you the option and prices for the sponsored listings as well. So hopefully that helps. You may need to watch this video back a couple of times, but that's basically how to set up an eBay campaign properly, and all the tips and advice that I've got for you is included in that video. So there's more videos to come about Etsy and about the online shop, so those will follow shortly, and thanks for watching.